So this week we're looking at Manifest Destiny. This is chapter 9.2. We have three objectives. I'm going to be going over the objectives with each slide, so make sure you pay attention to the objectives for each. So here we have as a map, we have the Louisiana Purchase. Now remember, the Louisiana Purchase was made by Jefferson in 1803. This has not been settled yet. Most people are focusing on these blue areas to settle. This is what we would call is more the Midwest in this area. And here we have is more the southern area. Okay. All the orange areas, those are already states. So now we're going to be discussing how Louisiana Purchase starts to be colonized and settled. So John L. O'Sullivan said about Manifest Destiny, our manifest destiny is to overspread the continent allotted by the providence for the free development of our yearly multiplying millions. So what he's saying here is that every year we have more people coming to America. And it is our destiny to take over the whole continent of North America. Frontier draws settlers. So before we start launching into the chapter, I want you to look at this picture. Now, our first objective is to summarize the reasons Americans went westward. So I'd like you to observe this picture and discuss exactly what you are seeing. So obviously we have a large woman floating. Who is this woman? Tell me who you think she is. Tell me, what do you think is happening in the picture? Okay, I would like at least 4 to 5 sentences for this observation. We'll look at this picture first thing on Monday or Tuesday. What is Manifest Destiny? Manifest Destiny is the belief that America is destined to control all of North America, the continent. They believe that because they were developed by liberty and self-government and democracy, that they had a right to take over the whole continent. They also believed it was a religious thing, so they believed God was on their side to spread the territory from coast to coast. The last thing is that they believed in bringing God, technology, and civilization to Western areas. Now, if we think who's in the West, it is mostly natives who are in the West. So this is sort of a way for them to justify taking away natives' land in the response as a religious reason. So they believe because God was telling them to do this. So of course, as is in every aspect of history, we have some fighting with the natives. Now, some natives at this time, this is our second objective, describe the impact of moving west had on natives. Some natives, they decide to assimilate. That means they're going to become a part of white culture. But others, they're trying to fight against the white settlers to keep their own culture. The most notable is Chief Black Hawk of the Sioux tribe. In 1830, we have settlers are moving into what is today known as Iowa. Now, Iowa has many different tribes there. Many tribes, they end up going to Chief Black Hawk to discuss a vision that a prophet had. Now, this vision basically stated that Black Hawk was going to lead a rebellion. And so, Black Hawk ends up leading a rebellion. It starts in Illinois, it is moved to Wisconsin, and also parts of Iowa. The end of this rebellion ends up happening that the natives lose. And the Sioux, along with all the other native tribes, they are again forced to move westward and forced off their land. So we're getting a little bit of the same thing happening as with the Trail of Tears. There is this thing called a middle ground. Now, a middle ground is a place that neither natives or settlers have control. And the reason why neither dominates is because they need each other. An example of middle ground in 1830 was the Mississippi River. So basically, the natives needed the settlers to trade, and the settlers needed natives to help them navigate this new land that they didn't really know. So it was a mutual agreement. The last thing that we should note is the Fort Laramie Treaty. The treaty is between natives and settlers. Natives were paid by settlers to settle in the Midwest area. So basically, natives are getting money in exchange for settlers settling there. This treaty also stated that there should be no fighting between natives and settlers, and it also stated that the government would improve roads to the west so that eventually they could trade more. What ends up happening, this treaty is not honored, and the natives are again forced off their land, and they are forced to live in reservations. Natives live in reservations in the U.S. today, so when they are forced off their land for probably second or third time, they are now given a piece of land that is now theirs, and many natives still live there today. Now we have trails west. We have, I would like you, the objective for this part is to identify westward trails and the people who use them. The first one is the Santa Fe Trail. Now the Santa Fe Trail is not necessarily for settling. It is more for trade. So it is a long trail, 780 miles, and it's between Missouri and New Mexico. Now, when we think of westward expansion, we should think of this picture up at the top. We have wooden wagons covered with cloth, and it's usually horse-drawn. What would happen is traders would go with their wagons in groups of up to 100 wagons. Now imagine that's quite a large group. The reason is they feared that natives would attack them, so it was a way to defend themselves. But once they reached Santa Fe, which Santa Fe was still in Spain's territory, all these wagons would start racing to Santa Fe to be the first to start trading in Mexican's territory. So as we know, Santa Fe is actually not a part of America yet. It is a part of Mexico and the Spanish territory. Once they got goods to trade, they would sort of head back to where they came from. The second trail we're looking at is the Oregon Trail. Now, the Oregon Trail is actually not a new trail. This trail was Lewis and Clark, back during Jefferson's presidency, they were the first to walk on the Oregon Trail. This time around, we have missionaries were the first to walk on the Oregon Trail. And missionaries are Christians who want to convert natives to Christianity. Now, some of them had wagons, but for the most part, these people are walking. So they are walking from areas like Illinois and Wisconsin all the way to the west coast of the U.S. The last people we're looking at are the Mormons, the Mormon migration. Now, Mormon is a type of Christian. They are known for being polygamous, which is meaning they have many wives. Now, most Americans did not agree with this, so the Mormons were kicked out of Illinois. They also are going on the Mormon Trail and are settling in what is today known as Utah. They are still in Utah today. We still have Mormons in Utah. Now, just to note, this man here up at the top, this is Joseph Smith. He is the person who starts Mormonism, the practice sort of having many wives in relation to sort of Christianity. But the more important person is Brigham Young. Brigham Young is the one who forces Mormons to migrate to what is today known as Utah, Arizona, parts of Nevada as well. Now, just a little fact about Brigham Young. He had 55 wives. So one man and 55 wives. This is part of the reason why they were kicked out of eastern part of the U.S. So I'd like you to look at this map. Your task is to look at the Oregon Trail, the Mormon Trail, and the Santa Fe Trail. And I want you to tell me which states do these trails go through, okay? That is your question. So here's a little picture about manifest destiny, and we're back on this picture. So you have 2 tasks this week.